doing this. All right, all right, all right. Thank you, everyone, for joining me today. This is Ascenion225 Tarot and Oracle. Thank you for joining me. I know you normally see my videos where I'm reading tarot and the zodiac and talking about numerology and astrology, but I want to sort of expand what I'm doing in 2026. Our 10 year that's coming up. That's going to be a spectacular year for the entire collective. So we are manifesting and gearing up for that. So I want to include some new things on my channel. And so I've joined a collective of like-minded folks here in the Atlanta metro area. And after being in hermit mode for so long, going through this spiritual ascension, you know, if you know anything about my videos, I went through a horrible breakup during COVID. And that spiraled me into a serious spiritual growth spurt that still continues to this day. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the breakup even. So getting out of my hermit mode, Spirit's been saying, okay, it's time for you to get out there. You need to find your tribe. And I found my tribe recently over the last 6 months. And one of the folks that really has sparked my interest and I feel like I'm part of a kinship with is a friend of mine and a sister of mine and a co-spirit of mine. And her name is Shontwel Wright. And, you know, it's kismet already because my maiden name is Wright and her name is Wright. And I can't even tell you how many Wrights I've met over the last 6 months. I don't know. In the Atlanta area, go figure. But anyway, so Shontwel Wright, we've been going to the collective meetings or the metaphysical fairs every month. And, you know, she's given me Reiki and really, you know, inspire me in so many different ways. So without me rattling on, I wanted to, as my first podcast, I want to introduce Shontwel Wright, who is a Reiki master. Shontwel, over to you after me babbling. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Shontwel. I am a Kemetik Reiki practitioner, a Reiki master, a Tantra practitioner, a Heartwork certified practitioner, and a Qigong practitioner, among other things. And what this work does is it bridges us back into spirit, you know. And I have been doing this pretty much all my life, right? When I was a little girl, I knew that I could see spirits and different things. And, you know, as I got older, I understood that I could heal things with my hands, but I didn't know what was happening. You know, I just knew something was happening. So this has always been a part of who I am. And about 26 years ago, my family and I moved to Atlanta. And that was the first time I had ever really heard the term Reiki. I went to a Kemetik Reiki event with my cousin. And so life just started to make sense at that point. So this has like always been a part of my journey. And I'm a mother, you know, of 4, and I have 3 grandchildren. So I am in a space of continual healing, you know. And so practicing Reiki is assisting me with mending bridges, you know, along with other modalities.
Absolutely.
So,
all right. So, can you tell me, Shontwel, what you use the term Kemetik Reiki? What is that? What is Kemetik Reiki? What does that mean?
Okay. So Kemetik Reiki, it's more so rooted in the ancient African spirituality. It honors the mother principles, the womb, the waters, the earth, Great Mother Sekhmet, the ancestral feminine. the divine feminine. And so with the Kemetik Reiki, we're working kind of deeply in the heart space, the womb space, the ancestral, energies. And it's based in Mayat, in the universal laws, so that
Okay.
is the Kemetik Reiki.
Wow, that's very, very interesting.
Mhm.
So are there different types of Reiki aside from Kemetic, or is that the root of what Reiki is?
Actually, they're all different types of Reiki.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's the Usui Reiki, which is what I'm also certified in, which is what I'm the Master Reiki certification and
Mm-hmm.
Master Teacher certification in the Usui Reiki. But there is also it's a Holy Fire Reiki.
Yeah.
I'm not versed in all of them, but
Yeah.
it is about, give or take, I think about 10 different types. And like the
Okay.
Usui, it's of course the universal life energy, but it's more like the Japan culture. They
Got
use
you.
a lot of symbols and different things, whereas the Kemetic Reiki, we use like the drums and the rattles and, things that bring forth the ancestors in order to honor, the work that is being done. So,
Beautiful, beautiful.
yeah.
Thank you for breaking that down.
Mhm.
So you mentioned that you've been doing this for about 26 years, and you also you also mentioned other modalities, qigong, which I've heard is very beneficial. I mean, there's something to be said about Eastern medicine
Yes,
and
absolutely.
the holistic practices of the Eastern world.
Hmm.
So you mentioned qigong. What else do you do?
Um, so just for I moved here 26 years ago.
Oh, okay. Thank
I
you.
actually got my certification in 2021, I think it was.
Got it.
But it was just something that I had been doing throughout my life. I just didn't understand the term Reiki.
Okay.
I grew up where they called it laying hands. I'm from Mississippi,
Mm.
so they were laying hands. But even then,
Hmm.
I wasn't 100% sure like what was happening. Um,
Right.
but yeah, so I practice Qigong. I am a heart work practitioner, and the heart work, it's basically working with the soul, the spirit, the energetic heart.
Hmm.
Um, the Kemetic Reiki. I'm a certified Tantra teacher. Um,
Is that sex, or does that have to do with sex, or and just
it
energy?
it has to do with the sexual energy.
Hmm.
But the difference between like the Reiki and the Tantra,
Hmm.
Reiki is more, you're trusting, like I'm the channel. The energy is flowing through me because I'm the channel, I'm the vessel. Where in the Tantra, we're teaching you how to use your own energy and how to move and maneuver and,
Hmm.
flow and work in your own energy, with little outside assistance, you
Okay.
know. So it's a very sexual energy, but
Hmm.
it's more healing sexual, it's more spiritual sexual, it's not physical lust sexual.
Got you.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you. Wow, you've got some varied interests and varied abilities. So going back, when you said that when you were a child that you did not understand, tell us a little bit about your abilities now that you have a firmer understanding what you didn't know as a child.
So it's a vast thing. So it's kind of like figuring out how to narrow that down. But basically, I just have this knowing of what's happening with people. I used to call it like my x-ray vision, where I could see somebody and I would just know what was going on. I would see them and then I would see these movies like playing in black and white. And so my whole, probably up until I was about 25, I had this vision, I guess, where although I'm in this physical world, and my brain and my vision, I was constantly watching this black and white movie. And it was
Mhm.
all of these things that were either happening, about to happen, were gonna happen, or, just a hodgepodge of, I could see people and I would kind of know like they were in the process of transitioning, even
Mhm.
if it was like gonna be years later or
Mhm.
whatever. Like I would see it,
Mhm.
I remember when my grandparents transitioned, I just knew. And then I got a phone call, and I was a teenager. I think I was 16 or so. So I have this innate sense of what's
Mhm.
happening just, by being sometimes in contact with people. And it's not everybody, I just
Mhm.
feel like it's just for the people that I'm meant to, assist.
Yeah,
But
that's what I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, um, when I'm in large crowds, like I can feel the energy, and sometimes,
Mhm.
people are just walking by and I'm just like, oh, that's going on with them and this is happening with them or this is happening here, or
Wow.
I've
So
had
is it just a thought or is it a feeling or like if you were to pass me on the street and you felt, I mean, how would you do, how does that happen for you?
for me, it's like a mini video, and
I
then
mean,
I hear all of this. Yeah, I'll see all of these things and I hear all of this information, Sometimes it can be a scent. It'll just be something as simple as, oh, that smells really good. And it's the moment I acknowledge the fact that it smells good, then all of this information starts downloading. But it's like a ticker tape in my brain. It's just doop, 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 doop.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how do you handle that information or especially when you were, growing up, you were young, you probably didn't understand what was happening, that these were gifts that God invited you with. So, how did you come to understand these?
Um, it's always been like that's always how I remember things being. So I was always under the assumption that it was like that for everybody. It
Mhm.
was only when I got older that I realized, like, oh, everybody, it's not happening like that for everybody else. Like this is a
Mhm.
me thing. But
Mhm.
in that, I was always around elders. Like when I was a little girl, the lady that would babysit me, while my mom was still at work or my dad was still at work, she lived next door to us.
Mhm.
And I was 5, 6, 7, and she was probably 85, 90 years old. So when I would tell her, oh, I just saw this man and he just walked in, she would explain to me what was happening. She didn't make me feel like anything was wrong,
Wow.
and I would talk to my grandmother, and she would share and she would explain. Like, I remember a time we were at my grandparents' house and the door just came open, and I noticed this energy come in, and I noticed him walk over and he sat down on the couch. And I asked my grandma, I'm like, who is that? And she started explaining it to me, and I understood that he had transitioned. He was not in the physical. So it just always felt normal to me until I got older and I realized everybody didn't have the same experiences, but I had experiences with friends and I had experiences with family. So I knew that the experiences were real. I
Yeah.
just didn't understand that everybody wasn't the same, you
Absolutely.
know?
So when you see energies, do you see them as as real people? They look like themselves, or
Hmm.
is it just an energy form?
Um, it's all different sorts, honestly. Sometimes it's just somebody's describing to me what they look like, and then the energy, the picture is forming in my mind. Sometimes I can just sense them there, and then the picture forms in my mind. Um, it's just according to who they are and what they're coming to do, you know. If it's like the ancestors, sometimes they'll appear to me as little children, and then I'm
Mhm.
explaining to the people, or they'll just give me a name, or, I'll get a scent or, something to let the person know who it is that's talking to them, you know.
So the spirits seek you out in order to deliver messages. Is that what I hear you saying?
Yeah, yeah,
It's very
you know,
interesting.
it is. It is.
Okay, I love that. So, I mean, did it scare you or used to scare you, growing up or, or or you said that's because you just thought it was normal. Everybody saw this type of stuff, so it wasn't really scary to you.
Um, I had moments of fear, but it wasn't something that terrified me because I also had this knowing that it couldn't hurt me. You
Okay.
know, I remember my sister used to have this nightmare and she said the devil was under her bed.
Mm-hmm.
And my response was, don't worry about it. I'll sit in your room. And I would sit at the foot of her bed because I knew she was afraid of this devil that was under her bed. But for me, I knew
Uh-huh.
it couldn't hurt me for some reason. I don't know how or why I knew. I just knew, you know. But I did go through a phase from between like 14 and 16 where I would have this continuous nightmare of all of these entities and demons and witches and things chasing me. But I
Wow.
would be inside of this house. But each time it would get to this point with me where I would just like, you know what? I'm done running. I'm done being afraid. And I would stand
Mm-hmm.
up to it and then I could go to the next space, you know.
They're trying to like make you fearful, fearful of growing spiritually.
Right.
Because you and I have
Right.
already had that conversation. I personally, in the short time that I've known you and talking with you, I definitely feel that you are either on the precipice of being an ascended master, or you are already in that category, because this ain't your first or second or third or fourth or fifth or sixth rodeo. You've been here many, many times
Right.
before.
Right.
But evil will try to scare you from growing, because the more
Right.
enlightened you are, the more your light shines, and that, you know what I mean?
Right.
So what would be your suggestions for the people out there listening to, how you grew up with these spiritual gifts, knowing that, I mean, innately knowing I don't have to be afraid, because that you knew that higher power was, had you guarded and protected. Um,
Right.
how would you suggest for folks who have some sort of spiritual gifts not to be afraid of them, or to understand them so they can embrace them?
So first, I would like to tell people that they're not broken. A lot of times when we start realizing that we have these gifts, our first thought is, I should have already been, or I should have done. Nope, you came online, the knowledge, however it came to you, it came exactly when it was supposed to. So you're
Mm-hmm.
not behind, you're not broken, you're not, any
Mm-hmm.
of the things that we tend to think that we are. But also, you want to learn how to ground yourself. You want to learn how to ground and take care of your nervous system, because this energy affects your nervous system a lot, you know.
Yeah.
It affects your mental state. So you need to be able to self-regulate, you
Mm-hmm.
know. You need to have discernment, you need to know to trust your heart, to trust your inner knowing, to trust you in order to keep you safe and keep you protected,
Mm-hmm.
um, you also want to, I tell everybody, it is essential to work with your ancestors. Even if you don't know them,
Mm-hmm.
you want to call upon your honorable and benevolent ancestors to come through, because they're waiting to guide you, because they are your protection in the spiritual world.
Absolutely.
And so you want to learn to honor them. You want to learn to get to know them. You want to learn their energy so that they can learn your energy, so that you know that you're guided and you're protected when you're doing this type of work, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, that's what I tell folks, that it's a collaboration. I
mhm,
mean, most people that, are focused on ego-based belief systems, so that they don't remember or take into consideration that this is really a collaboration. I call it a
right.
triad. It's
Yes.
Holy Spirit, whatever spirit, Holy Spirit you believe in, whatever name or label you want to put on them.
Right.
Also, you're working with your spirit team, which includes the 7 generations of ancestors
Right.
and ascended masters and all that other stuff. And then there's us. So it forms a triangle, and we're all working in collaboration, on this earthly plane, and the goal is spiritual ascension, right? Eventually,
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
having this earthly experience. And you're right. I don't, for my channel, if I'm feeling ill or something like that, I'll skip a day until I'm feeling better. If I have to tap into, the spirit realm, because,
Right.
I want to make sure that I'm up to par, and that I'm grounded and protected. So if I'm not
Right.
feeling well, then I'll skip a day or two of doing readings. So
Exactly, because you want to remain ethical in this work, at all times, because
absolutely.
you have to remember the people that eventually you will work with,
Mhm.
they're putting forth a trust in you. They're coming to you, in a very vulnerable state. And so you want to
Absolutely.
ensure that you are being righteous, that you're being
Yeah.
ethical. And so I would always suggest to people that, you first do this work on yourself. You really
Mhm.
need to work with yourself. You need to do your shadow work. You need to do, work
Mm.
through your traumas. You need to be honest with yourself without judgment, without shame, without ridicule, without all of the things, and just learn to be honest. And I feel like that's been a
Mhm.
huge part of the work for me, because
Yes,
my first stop is always me. What did
absolutely.
I do? What did I contribute? How did I do this thing? Because I have to hold myself accountable the same way I want to hold somebody else accountable.
First and foremost,
So,
and that also, not only accountability, but that love,
hmm
that love needs to be given, and that nurturing needs to be given to
to
yourself
self,
first and foremost.
right,
When they say put your oxygen mask on first, that
right,
has a lot of meaning to it, because the more healing that you do, and most of us do have some form of childhood trauma or some sort of
hmm
trauma that happened in our lives that sort of threw up some roadblocks or some stagnation or whatever in our energy from us moving forward or having healthy relationships or whatever the case may be. So, like you, this whole last year, I've dedicated to that inner child
right,
healing, from
right,
trauma that, we've already discussed offline, that, I've experienced. So,
hmm
and I think that makes me an even better person, an even better human being, to be able
right,
to say, I got more work to do. This is what I need to tackle. I need to make sure that my inner child, I want to make sure she's okay and she's heard and
right,
she's hugged and loved on and nurtured and stuff like that. So you're right.
absolutely,
It starts at one, and then it radiates outward
yes,
to the collective. So
yes.
totally. Well, thank you for that. Um, so what are some of the benefits of Reiki? What can you tell the folks?
Um, so I would say the greatest benefit to Reiki is that Reiki, like, I'm not healing you. The Reiki isn't healing you. The Reiki is teaching your body to heal itself, to remember how to heal itself. You know, um, it's bringing you back into your natural alignment. It's helping you to facilitate a gentler healing within yourself.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Um, let's see. So how long does it take to become a Reiki master like yourself?
it depends. It depends on the courses, that you're taking. It depends on where you decide, to take
Mhm.
the different courses. For me, because I wanted to be more versed in all of the different, or as many as I could, the different healing modalities.
Mhm.
I did the levels 1 and 2 with the Raseiki Temple here in Atlanta.
Okay.
And then I did other online courses, which is where I became the master, because I wanted to give myself, a better understanding. I don't like to just come and present what spirit shares. I like to be able to explain to people in real language, kind of
Mhm.
what's happening. So
Mhm.
for me, it took me about a year and a half, because I wanted to self pace. I wanted to really get to understand what was happening. I wanted to be able to practice the work, on myself, to see what was going on. But it just depends really on where you decide to actually get your certification from.
Okay. Does that require a certain amount of hours? I know for yoga level 2, I had to actually complete 500 hours.
Again, it depends on who you're actually
Okay.
taking the course from. For
Mm-hmm.
the Kemetik Reiki, we didn't have to have a certain number of hours. We
Okay.
actually got the first certification in a 2-day weekend.
Awesome.
So we were there like probably between 6 and 8 hours both days.
Mhm.
Just practicing, learning, understanding, asking questions. We did it, it's typically in a group setting. So
Mhm.
it just depends on where you decide. And I don't know a lot about the other teachers here in Atlanta or how they,
Mhm.
actually facilitate or set up. So I don't want to misspeak on what it is
Absolutely.
that they do.
No, I
Yeah.
totally understand. I totally understand that. And let's see. So last question is from your observations, when would you suggest that someone explore Reiki if they're in the process of doing that shadow work and healing themselves? When would you suggest that they pursue, try to seek maybe getting a Reiki session or more?
Um, I would possibly say just when you feel out of balance, you're nervous, you're jittery, you're snappy, just when you can't seem to self-regulate, you know. I would
Mhm.
say, to get a Reiki session or get chakra balancing, things that are going to help you kind of bring yourself back into alignment.
Mhm.
When you feel your thoughts racing, sometimes just it's your energy bodies, the physical body is responding to what's happening in the energy is responding to what's happening in the physical. Sometimes when you just have those feelings of, I just don't feel good, but you can't really, pinpoint it. Most of the time the energy is out of balance. you know um People come and get Reiki for all sorts of things. I've worked with people who have had cancer. I've worked with, people who have stomach issues, back problems. It's typically something that's out of alignment in spirit. So
Mhm.
really, I would just say you can kind of feel it, in your body when it's time. Just listen to your spirit, just listen to your body because it's going to guide you to where it is that you need to be.
I think that was most interesting what you just said. You said that most importantly, it's a misalignment in your spirit.
Hmm. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty deep.
Yeah.
If you really, really think about that,
Yes.
the whatever, whether it's digestive issues, back pain, whatever, it is something that's misaligned in your spirit
Hmm.
that's creating those blockages or whatever that
Right.
is.
Right.
Wow.
And
And that
so,
just reminds me, that that's what we are. And like me being a paranormal investigator, being able to document with equipment, spirit
hmm,
orbs, and stuff like that, that's what we are, is just 1000% energy balls.
right. Right. Where spirit's having a human experience. And
Absolutely. And
so,
to be able to, I think the hardest part is to keep things in balance.
imbalance.
That's like the hardest
Right.
part of,
Because you don't want to lean too far into one and not enough into the
yeah.
other. You really want to be balanced in the energy because if you're too far in spirit, then your physical is in chaos because you're always in spirit. When you're
Okay.
too much in the physical, then
Hmm.
spirit is slightly sometimes out of alignment because you're not merging the two. You're not bringing the two together.
Yeah.
Um, for me, it's all one thing. But I understand for other people, it's like a separation. So within that separation, you have to kind of find a balance so that things will flow. That's not to say that life is not going to happen. Life is still going to happen, but you'll just be able to experience it differently. You'll be able to maneuver and work through it differently.
Yeah. Um, I know I said that that was the last question, but I have one last question. And that is, with all the modalities that you encompass, life be life in, as a Reiki master, what do you do to make sure that you stay balanced?
I do a lot. I try to be outside at least 2 hours every day. Um,
Mhm.
I ground in the sun. I am always on the ground because I practice the heart work as well. I'm
Mhm.
learning to work with all of the elements differently because we are the element as well, you
Amen.
know.
Yes.
And so I'm learning to work with the elements differently. So I spend a lot of time at the water. Every day, my ritual, my daily ritual is to get up, honor my ancestors. You know, I do prayers every day before I leave out of my house. At some
Mhm.
point, even if I don't get to sit at the altar, I'm still talking to them. I'm still communicating with them, you know, every day. And so that's a huge part of keeping my spiritual energy clean, you know. But for the most part, I spend a lot of time outside in nature, like a lot of time, because the sun naturally clears our energy.
Oh,
The
yes.
water will clear our energy, you know. So I
Mhm.
am always outside, rain, snow, sleet,
Mhm.
cold, hot. I am outside. And that
So
helps me.
that's how you stay grounded,
Yes,
right?
yes, that helps
Awesome.
me a lot, like a lot. And I can feel when I don't
Mhm.
have enough, I haven't spent enough time. I feel
Mhm.
out of balance,
Yeah.
you know. And
Yeah.
so,
That's being in tune with yourself, I
yes,
think, and so people just go, 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 and give, 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 give to others and everything else, and totally not in tune with what they need and if they're feeling out of balance or anything like that.
right.
So that's why it's always good to put your oxygen mask on first. Shontwel Wright, I want to thank you so much for joining me today on my first podcast. And if somebody, I'm going to put your details down in the description box. But real quick, tell us how people can get in contact with you if they would like to get some Reiki work done or learn more.
Um, yeah, they can visit my website. It's shontwelscircleofhealing.com. That's SHONTWEL circleofhealing.com. And that is also my Instagram and my Facebook and TikTok, I believe.
Awesome. Okay,
So,
so you're on most of the platforms. That's wonderful.
yes.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time out to join me today. The Ascension225 Tarot family thanks you for your insight and your wisdom as far as Reiki is concerned. And it's all about, just taking care of ourselves and
Right.
as we continue on this spiritual journey. And I want to thank you again, my sis. And
Thank you.
I hope to see you very, very soon. Happy New Year to
Absolutely.
you.
Happy New Year.
And
And
I'll see
thank you for
you in
having me.
January. Thank you so much,
Yes.
Chantel. Mwah.
Thank
God bless.
you.
Take care.
Bye.
All right. Bye.